Let's give it up for our brass band. Woo! I believe they've been with us every step of the way, and certainly at like 4:30 in the mornings. Awesome, thank you. Welcome, everybody. We hold a lot of ceremonies for big and small projects, and every one of them is important. But this one feels like the mother of all projects. After more than 3 decades of advocacy and work, the Green Line extension is open and running. Let's first give everyone involved a hand. Yes, it's been a long haul. And if it seems like we've been talking about the Green Line extension forever, it's because we have been. I remember bringing my 8-year-old daughter to testify for cleaner air at the packed Green Line meeting at the Somerville High School during the Red Sox playoffs in 2005. She asked me that night when she'd get to ride the train. We know the answer now, when you're 26. But finally, our vision and hard work got us here. Today's event is dedicated to the many, many people who dreamed up, fought for, and made sure the Green Line happened. So it's important to remember how we got here, why we wanted these stops in the first place. It wasn't just so we had an easier route from point A to point B, though that's important. No, this is Somerville. So we were all aiming to take on bigger issues, like the impacts of post-war urban renewal projects that slapped down highways across our neighborhoods and took away trolleys from the urban ring. Yes, I-93 and McGrath made it easier for suburbanites and trucks to drive downtown, but they divided our neighborhoods, polluted our air, caused health impacts, hurt local businesses, razed homes, displaced families, and wiped out local jobs. These were the unintended consequences of planning for some, but not all. So people seeking to envision a better way began talking. Parents concerned about asthma rates shared ideas over cups of coffee. Activists who sought to bring good jobs and investments back met in living rooms and discussed late into the night. Civic-minded lawyers gathered around conference tables and formed legal strategies to improve air and life quality for people impacted by highways. And slowly, more voices joined, and the rooms where they gathered got bigger. They got as big as a packed high school auditorium in 2005 with over 700, as I know some of you remember that because you were there. The ideas also got bigger. The Mystic View Task Force and Somerville Transportation Equity Partnership began urging a new community vision of mixed-use, transit-oriented development, a vision that would help us to recreate a community with good jobs, more affordable housing, more equitable public transit access, greater sustainability, a healthier environment. The Friends of the Community Path shared their vision over 20 years ago for multimodal transit that included pedestrians and cyclists. The idea caught on. The lawsuits prevailed, and Somerville, you gotta love Somerville, we decided we would not let go until the Green Line extension was built. Despite countless delays and setbacks, Somerville never gave up. Activists testified and protested. Kids made signs. Residents spoke up. Elected officials at every level fought to keep the project alive. Local and state staff joined in the advocacy and then knuckled down to plan, design, permit, and build. And it worked. What began as small conversations over coffee was forged into a giant $2 billion civic project. Think about that. On Monday, we took the final step from those early ideas and hoped to get a running new Green Line. And now the Green Line extension is putting us on a path to a greener, cleaner, more equitable, prosperous, just, and sustainable future. We called forth our better way. The opening of the Green Line extension marks milestones in our ongoing effort to restore Somerville to a place where residents and their families can live with social, economic, environmental, and transit justice. But there is still much more work to be done for better access to local jobs, for housing as a human right, for carbon neutrality, and a healthier environment. And we must double down on ongoing efforts to address displacement and gentrification. We cannot allow the very people this project was designed to benefit to be pushed out of this community. Housing, zoning, social progress, workforce development, and regional advocacy for better planning and broader transit expansion are all part of the solutions we must pursue full force. And we must renew our efforts to keep working for more transportation equity. We need complete, safe, multimodal streets that work for everyone. We need to keep pushing to get the Green Line extension to Route 16. To keep pushing for the north-south connector. We need to invest in the Grand Junction Rail. We need to electrify everything. We must keep pushing to make public transportation free, and we will lower McGrath. If we want to not just celebrate, but to honor the achievement of the Green Line extension, we must continue to find the better way. We must plan for all. So today, we celebrate, but tomorrow we must continue the work, which is why, as our first speakers, we'll be hearing from two students whose stake in our tomorrows is very real. The future we are all building is very much for them, their peers, and all of our youth. So please join me in welcoming Somerville High School students Liam Boretsky-Jewell and Giacomo Ferrero to the podium. Liam is a sophomore at Somerville High School and a lifelong Somerville resident. He's always had an interest in rail travel and engineering. In recent months, he spent a lot of time researching city designs and ways in which urban areas can be made more sustainable and livable. He is an aspiring transportation engineer and urban planner who's extremely excited about the Green Line extension, and he took it today to get here. Also, Giacomo Ferrero is a sophomore at Somerville High School. He is interested in transit infrastructure. He's been waiting for a Green Line extension all year as it makes his commute to school far easier. Both were gracious enough to share their thoughts with us today.
This extension is one of the most important and highly anticipated transit projects in America, serving one of its densest and most congested cities. Not only will it benefit those of us who use it to commute to work, but thousands of students, both at Tufts and within Somerville Public Schools, who can use it to access education, after-school activities, job opportunities, and other destinations within the Boston area. Providing youth with the ability to make trips like these without a car is extremely valuable to a child's growth and independence. In places with poor transit and bike connectivity, children largely have to rely on their parents to get anywhere until they're 16. But having lived here, I regularly started biking and riding public transit alone at the age of 11, and I can truly vouch for how empowering it is to have that kind of freedom. Introducing people to high-quality transit at a young age and providing them with free T-passes is also a crucial step in educating youth about the benefits of transit and in gaining new, potentially lifelong riders. Unfortunately, we live in a country which has historically underinvested in and deprioritized improving and expanding transit in favor of car dependency. The consequences of this can be seen right here in Somerville in the form of widely hated highways like McGrath and I-93, which have been linked to an alarming increase in respiratory problems, noise pollution, and pedestrian fatalities around East Somerville and other environmental justice communities. In my opinion, building dangerous, expensive, ugly, and horrendously unsustainable car infrastructure like these arteries was a terrible mistake, and I hope most residents would agree. I also hope that the region as a whole and its elected leaders will continue to fight for infrastructure tailored to the needs of people and the environment. If we intend to meet our climate goals effectively, lift communities out of poverty, ease congestion, and make our cities more livable, vibrant places, we must move people out of cars and onto transit and bikes. These far more economically sustainable forms of transportation are many orders of magnitude more space efficient and energy efficient than gasoline or electric cars, and allow individuals to more easily live car-free, reducing their carbon footprint by 40%. In this regard, the Green Line extension is a huge step in the right direction, but we can't be done fighting yet. This extension wouldn't have been possible without the undeterred effort of some of the people standing in this room today, and to them, I'm greatly thankful.
It is great to see such a good extension service our local communities. And as a student actually at the high school, I've been looking forward to this since I heard about it I think I heard about it at the beginning of my 9th grade year. And I've been excited for it because it makes my commute far easier. I get on at getting on at Ball Square to Gilman Square takes less than 5 minutes, and it's really amazing. And also great to see a bunch of other commuters taking it, because anything that gets people off of out of cars and into buses and trains is great for the environment, a great step forward. But of course, we're gonna have to keep going with that, get extended further. And also, I hope it will help out local businesses, because it makes them easy to access. And you know, lots of people have been complaining about the MBTA lately, so it's nice to see something positive come out of the MBTA for a change. And yeah, and I'm trying not to repeat him, so that's pretty much all I've got.
Some people say that Somerville has the most progressive and most effective state delegation of any community in Massachusetts. Obviously, I'm biased.
I heard you laugh, Senator.
But count me as one of these people. State senators and representatives play a key role interfacing with state agencies. They help secure funding, they write legislation, and they amplify our residents' voices. My staff was constantly coordinating with our state delegation on a dozen different issues. The Green Line extension has been one of the biggest areas of collaboration. I'd like to recognize the tireless efforts and skillful advocacy of Senator Pat Jalen, Representative Christine Barber, Representative Mike Conley, and Representative Erica Eiderhoven, and former Representative Denise Provo. Please join me in welcoming Senator Jalen, Barber, Conley to the podium.
First, I'm bringing greetings from Denise Provo, who was state representative during much of the development of the Green Line extension. But I have a question for you, and I have a bunch of questions. One is, raise your hand if you ever felt discouraged about whether we would ever see this day. Everybody who has ever worked to make a big change gets discouraged, because there are times when it feels impossible. And sometimes it is impossible. We are never guaranteed success, but we are guaranteed failure when we give up. We are here because of the mothers who tried to block I-93. They failed. They failed, but their bravery led to stopping the inner belt. And so I'm grateful because that my house is still there. We are here because of decades of leafleting, testifying, going to meetings by thousands of people, some recognized here and some unrecognized, and some who are no longer with us. People who didn't give up. Raise your hand if you ever went to a meeting, spoke up, wrote an email or a letter, or signed a petition. Thank you. And thank you to all the other speakers who will list some of the many people and groups who made this happen. I'm not going to do all of that because it would be repetitious, but I'm going to ask you to identify yourselves if you're one of the people who's going to take us to the next step. Raise your hand if you're going to work to get the Green Line extension to Route 16 as we were promised. Raise your hand if you're going to make sure we have a crosstown bus connection so kids can get to the high school from both sides of the hill. Raise your hand if you're going to work to get the community path to reach the Mystic and the Charles Rivers. Raise your hand if you're going to make sure the bus redesign actually makes bus service available to the people who really need it and pays enough to get enough drivers to fulfill the plan. Raise your hand if you're going to work for fare-free buses. Thank you. And raise your hand if you're willing to pay taxes to make sure that public transportation is safe, reliable, and accessible. Everybody can't do everything. Nobody can do it alone. But when we work together, we can make things possible that seemed impossible. Thank you for making this possible.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Barber, one of the state representatives, and I'm just so overjoyed to be here. I want to start by thanking the organizers of this event and Mayor Ballantyne. Not only did her staff do a lot of the day-to-day work to actually make sure this project happened, but had, I think, what is the rightful way to celebrate the Green Line extension, which is actually having a community event with all of us here and members of the community who did this speaking. So thank you to Mayor Ballantyne for this. I'm so overjoyed to finally be here and celebrating this with all of you. After decades of fighting for this project, I'm so thrilled to have actually ridden the Green Line from my house here to Gilman Square today. This public works project, as we know, is the culmination of years and years of advocacy and hard work by many people, many of whom are in this room. And it's amazing to be here to celebrate this with you today. I too have been working on this for many years, since before I was elected, and I remember being at that meeting in 2005 with many of you in the audience, wondering if this was actually going to get built. And now to be here and have new stations in Union, in Gilman, all the way to Medford and Tufts, it's really an amazing moment. This is truly a community-led public works project. And I'm so grateful to many activists, like the folks from STEP, who spent decades fighting to bring the Green Line extension and to build support across the city. Grateful for Conservation Law Foundation, who pushed this and brought it to court. Businesses who have fought for this for years and weathered some of the challenges of making sure the Green Line comes to all of our squares. And then community members who showed up over and over at countless meetings to make sure that this, the first great expansion of public transit in Massachusetts in decades, was built in our community. So we know there's been so many challenges. The construction has been incredibly challenging for many community members. So many businesses weathered not having customers, as many bridges and roads have been closed over the last 5 years. And the biggest challenge of as housing becomes more and more unaffordable, it's pushed us to all work together at the state and city level to continue to address affordable housing in our communities. But today we're here to celebrate. The GLX will have an immediate impact on our lives, health, and economy. It makes critical improvements to our air quality and our economic mobility, including for environmental justice communities throughout our city. We've worked together as a community, but we know that there is also so much more to do. So I am committed to continuing to push the GLX to its original terminus, Route 16. That will bring even greater improvements to air quality and economic mobility to a regional effort in Medford, Somerville, and Arlington. And we also know the T is essential to our economy, our ability to address climate change, and for people just to get to work and to school. The T is not in a great place now, and there's much more that we need to do to recommit to making the T safe, accessible, affordable, and available for all of our residents. So today is a win. It's a win for clean air, for all of our communities, for mobility. It's a day to celebrate, to thank each other for all the work that we've done, to ride the train, to enjoy what we have, and to continue to work together on what's next. Thank you so much.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here. I feel like my colleagues have said most of it, but I'll just add, I was thinking on my way in, I moved to Cambridge in 2011, right on the Cambridge-Somerville line. And the very first thing I did was write an op-ed that we need the Green Line extension. At the time, the talk was maybe we could only go to Union Square and we can get to the other stuff later. And I jumped on that. Fast forward 5 years later, the project was canceled. I was with so many of you in that moment advocating to bring it back. And I remember getting elected And my very first meeting ever at the State House, it was before I got sworn in, was when John Dalton got hired. And I remember him sitting at the table and thinking, this looks like, you know, a general of an army, someone who will get this job done. So let's hear it for the workers who did the work under hard circumstances. Even people who deserve even more credit are our neighbors, many of you who endured the construction, who endured the closures of bridges. Thank you for everyone for being patient. There's really no way around it when you're doing construction. You know, it's also important, I think, to think about the work that remains to be done. As Rep. Barber and Senator Jalen alluded to, housing justice is essential to achieving the vision of transit justice, right? Transit justice isn't we build it and then people are displaced. Transit justice is the people who have made this community what it is get to enjoy the benefits. And I'm deeply committed to working with my colleagues to ensure that, as the mayor said, housing is a human right and that everyone can remain in our community and enjoy this amenity. And there's a lot of things to be encouraged by. We recently passed the Fair Share Amendment, and so that is going to give us an opportunity to do even more transit projects. Our new governor-elect, Maura Healey, has stated she will support local option rent stabilization, and so that gives us a real opportunity to preserve housing stability for folks. And as we heard, you know, we need this to continue to go out to Route 16, and I even have a dream that maybe someday it could go to Porter Square, and so we're working to make sure that opportunity isn't foreclosed. So I'm just so delighted that we're here. I think we have more work to do to get sound walls along I-93, to ground McGrath Boulevard and have a green urban boulevard instead of a highway separating East Somerville, and to ensure housing for all. So I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you. And next, I've been asked to mention that State Representative Erica Eiderhoven has a video, so I think.
Hello, Somerville. I'm Rep. Erica Eiderhoven. I'm proud to be representing you all here as your state representative in Somerville. I'm thrilled to be celebrating with you all this incredible grand opening of the Green Line extension. Growing up here and for most of my life, extending the Green Line through Somerville into Medford was just an idea. And so I'm just incredibly thankful and grateful for all of the community activists, advocates, construction workers, staff, and my colleagues, former and present, who advocated tirelessly and worked hard to ensure that this idea became a reality. It is a critical first step in ensuring that we have transportation justice for all. And we also have a lot of work ahead of us. As your state representative, I will fight tirelessly to ensure that we have billions of more dollars going into our public transportation system. This means both ensuring that we expand our public transportation network and ensure that it is safe, reliable, and fare-free. We also need to ensure that we make deep investments into affordable housing and implement policies that stop the displacement crisis, especially transit-oriented displacement, so that we can have housing and transportation as a human right for all. So let's get to work. I'm proud to work with you all on the endeavors ahead of us. I'm wishing you all a happy holiday and a happy new year. Thank you.
We had planned to hear from Council President Matt McLaughlin, but he's not feeling well today. But I'd like to thank and honor the Somerville City Council, both present and past. The City Council has played a crucial role in the success of the Green Line extension. Could every past and present City Councilor in the room please raise your hand? Okay, Councilor Strezzo. I think Councilor Jake Wilson is also here. When I served on the City Council, we took consequential votes that helped to keep the project alive. In 2012, we voted to acquire the land that the MBTA needed to build the Union Square station. Without that vote, the MBTA would have missed out on federal funding cycles, delaying the project. In 2016, we voted to commit local funding to the state construction project, which was unprecedented. As we did this work, my colleagues on the council protected the public interest every step of the way. We built in protections to get our money back, and indeed, that's exactly what happened. I remember well councilors over the years protesting and testifying alongside our advocates. Our council too dug in for this fight. Please join me in thanking the City Council. Okay, next. We'd like to thank and honor a mighty trio of local advocacy organizations that deserve so much credit for building and maintaining the GLX Coalition. First, let's talk about Somerville Transportation Equity Partnership, known as STEP. STEP has a special place in my heart. Before I served as a city councilor, I was just a regular resident activist here in Somerville. I cared about environmental justice, and I understood the role that discriminatory transportation and land use policy played in shaping public health and economic opportunities. STEP helped me channel my energy in productive direction. STEP organizers like Ellen Reisner, Wig Zamor, Karen Malloy, Stephen Mulder, Jim McGinnis, Christy Chase, and many others built a scaffolding for our community to climb on in our advocacy. These people volunteered their time year after year, milestone after milestone, and never missed an opportunity to organize and advocate. And for the record, they didn't just work on the Green Line. They helped build us the Orange Line station in Assembly Square. Yes, please clap. They helped create the Summer Vision's comprehensive plan that guides land use planning in our city. Please clap. They helped us envision tearing down McGrath Highway and creating McGrath Boulevard. Ellen cannot be here with us today, and we are sending her our love and respect from afar, but I'm honored to introduce Wig Zamor, Karen Malloy, and Steve Mulder from STEP.
Hi. I'm not usually one of the public speakers for STEP. That role tends to fall with our friend and colleague, Ellen Reisner, who can't join us today. But I'll do my best. It's been a very long road, and I thought about it on Monday when I got to my station, Magoon Square, and I actually heard that whoosh of the Green Line before I actually saw the illuminated tea lollipop of the station. It's been a long time, and it's been a very gratifying week. And from the first STEP meeting in 2003, a bunch of us met at a Chinese restaurant, Union Square. From the first meeting of the Friends of the Community Path in Lynn Weissman and Joel Bennett's living room in 2001. This is just an amazing week to basically reflect on the past 20 years, basically. For me personally, there was so much to learn about transportation and all of these processes, Boston MPO, environmental impact studies, and countless meetings, as has been said before, countless meetings, countless emails, and countless signage. I learned so much, and I just learned through the process what a great community Somerville is. I've been here for 35 years. When I moved here, people thought I was crazy that I didn't own a car, and now, it's been great to be without a car, and now it's going to be greater. So I also wanted to acknowledge a few of the groups that we worked with over the years, including the East Cambridge Planning Team, the Medford Green Line Alliance, of course CLF, which was mentioned earlier. There were just so many groups that we worked with, and as a community, it's just been such an inspiring time. During the time in the early aughts when all of this was being fought, basically, other changes were going on in Somerville. For example, in my neighborhood, the Armory had just been bought from the state to turn it into a performance center. The real estate speculation was already starting, and the first transit-oriented development at Maxwell Green was built. So there's just been amazing changes in Somerville over the years. Let's see. I just, have to give such gratitude to our state delegation, our wonderful state delegation, including Denise, who I know is here today. Let's see. I'm going to wrap up now, but I just want to say I'm certainly committed going forward to the projects that were mentioned earlier. Route 16, getting the Green Line extension from Union Square to Porter, which is why there are all these Eversource meetings going on right now, by the way, because Eversource substation is right by the Union Square T-stop, and then on to McGrath Boulevard. Thank you very much.
So my own journey with the Green Line began at some street festival, I think in 2004. So I've only been part of STEP since 2004. I guess I'm a newbie compared, right? And I remember coming across this table, and there were these very kind, incredibly knowledgeable people from STEP talking about the Green Line, which until then had been just a rumor in my mind, right? It was the cause that brought me into the Green Line, but it was the people that got me to stay and really commit time and energy to making this real collectively. And then it was really the people of Somerville at large, the amazing, brilliant, tenacious, relentless people of Somerville who simply would not let it go. That's why we're here. I mean, I think back to 2004, one of the first things I remember hearing was the state was gathering emails and comments about the long-range transportation plan. Half of the messages they got were from Somerville, from the whole region. And that's all I needed to know, right? I am in. When it came to the state trying to renege on the commitment and pull out of doing the Green Line, 300 people from Somerville showed up at the State House to make our voice heard. I mean, these are now ancient memories, but it's the grassroots and it's the energy that still lives today that has made this happen. Okay, I will not continue to go through the timeline. My point here is that all the individual letters, all the comments, spoken, written, emailed, all the meetings that everybody came to, all the signs that were made, the buttons that were worn, every time someone told a friend about what was going on at the Green Line or stopped by the STEP booth at Artbeat, all of these things, the donations, the flyers, all of these moments are what made this come to life and it really bring us here today. And I really think that every individual moment like that, every individual contribution from all of us was like a brushstroke in the painting that is now the Green Line. I mean, we made it. We drew this thing hand by hand, year by year, day by day. And that's why we're here. It's the power of the people coming together, standing up for what we believe in, moving together to make that happen. I cannot wait to see what we do next. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. So Steve has always been our map master, and he creates new ones when we need them, and also our webmaster, and Karen and Jim have helped with those too. And Karen always does Artbeat, which is a really big deal for STEP, and we get to meet a lot of people, kind of talk to the new people in town, because we have a lot of population turnover about what's going on with transit and other things in Somerville. And I want to just say a couple things about our state delegation, all of whom are terrific, but I want to single out Denise and Pat. And Denise, I had the honor of working with for about 3 months. One summer, we had a Conservation Law Foundation intern, and we created the first draft of the Healthy Transportation Compact. Denise worked on that for another 2 years and got it passed, and it was really groundbreaking, so I want to just mention that. And I've had the honor of working with Pat a couple times. It's been a little different. So one night I got home after a hard day of work. It's like 9 o'clock. I just check my emails. I have an email from Senator Jalen. Whig, a transportation bond bill draft is attached. If you can redraft it by 9 tomorrow morning, I think I can get the Green Line funded. This is a true story. I went to bed. I mean, I needed to get some rest. It was over 600 pages. So I found 6 places that had to be deleted. I rewrote them. I got them back to Pat about 9 a.m. And she did all the work before and after. So, you know. But that's true, isn't it, Pat? Yeah, right. And then I just want to mention, I know Doug and Ann are going to talk briefly later, but they were of enormous importance both at Assembly Square and with the Green Line. So when Mystic View, which is the second group I would put up there for their work on the Green Line advocacy, and actually we're a majority of some of the small meetings during the day, like at Conservation Law Foundation and at the State Transportation Building. So when Mystic View, you know the story of Mystic View, I think, and it was pretty adverse for a while. People had lost confidence in Somerville's ability at Assembly Square. The mall was broke, Home Depot was doing great, and people thought we should do mostly parking lots and big boxes. And Mystic View resisted that and had to fight 3 fully prosecuted lawsuits, which fortunately were won. But then we needed a solution. We needed to go forward because fighting doesn't really get you anywhere. And so we reached out to Doug and asked him to help us settle that. And he said he would only do that if he could bring Ann Tate in. So that helped us a lot with the settlement at Assembly Square, and that led to the Orange Line station. So I'm wearing this shirt because we got a red line quite a while ago, right, through great local advocacy. We got an orange line at Assembly, and we're able to move forward. But that was a $15 million contribution from the developers, which Doug really insisted on. And then we got the rest from the state, and we got rolling on that. And here we are with the Green Line. So I've got some green here. I also have blue shoes, and I'm going to tell you about that in a second, okay? But if you'll indulge me, I'd like to say just a minute or two about the past, present, and future. So our universe began about 14.5 billion years ago. And about 2/3 of the way through that, our Milky Way galaxy and Earth began, about 4.5 billion years ago. And within 0.5 billion years, there was life on Earth. We had single-celled organisms from 10% of the way through the start of Earth, right up till today. But it took until 1.5 billion years ago for multi-celled organisms to happen, and we've only been people for about 500 million years. I could even have that wrong. It might be 500,000. Hold on. I think it's just 500,000. So anyway, so all of the accumulation of biomass and all of the extinctions led to a lot of coal and a lot of oil. And we're made of the same stuff, right? We're carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. They're 4 of the most numerous elements in the universe, although most of it is hydrogen, and that leads to unfortunate interactions. So we're made of CHON and some other stuff. Our fuel for many decades was made of CHON and some other stuff. And when you burn that fuel and you create accidental hydrocarbons and nitrogen oxides and things like that, the interaction is extremely unhealthy. And people have already brought up I-93. That was built illegally after the Clean Air Act of 1970, which was divided into industry, like big power plants like Mystic, which was highly polluting years ago, and transportation, because transportation is much harder to control. So let me just say, as to the future, I want to make 3 comments on that, just for thought. So the first thing is Somerville is the densest city, Chelsea's second. Somerville has the most diesel rail per square mile and the most traffic per square mile, which is really not a good thing. But Chelsea is second in those. And Chelsea and some of the other lower Mystic to Lynn communities have much greater environmental justice needs than we have. So here is an idea for you. And it's an old idea that keeps coming back because it's worth talking about. The Grand Junction Rail is what's used to get all the diesel locomotives to Somerville to their maintenance in the Boston Engine Terminal. And all the locomotives from the north side as well use the Grand Junction to get to the Boston Engine Terminal in Somerville. And the greatest population left out of our regional research economy, because we used to be manufacturing, it collapsed in the 1970s, but it was spread everywhere. The research economy is not. And the people who are left out are the lower Mystic to Lynn. But you could bring the Blue Line, which is terrific, down along one of the Green Line branches, one of the old Green Line tunnels, go under Longwood, pop up on Grand Junction. You can come right across at the bottom of MIT, come right through Kendall. The Grand Junction goes through all of the transformational districts of Somerville, and then it crosses at Assembly Square and turns right on the north side of the Mystic, the lower Mystic, which has the EJ populations, and then it goes back to up to East Boston and Revere. So that is the part of our regional economy that we have not incorporated or given opportunity to. So that's one thing to think about. Offshore wind, Massachusetts and Maine have a unique opportunity with current technology. Massachusetts can produce 20 times our total electric use with current offshore wind technology, and Maine can produce 35 times. The seagulls fly right through these things. There's not much life above the water once you get out to the offshore depths we're now building turbines in. And in a 10-year Manhattan Project-like effort, we could electrify all of New England and double that and sell the rest onto a grid. Lastly, and this has been mentioned before, we have to electrify transportation for the reasons the students mentioned, for the reasons other people have mentioned, but transportation is by far our greatest climate pollution impact. We're doing great with houses, we're doing great with commercial. Our insulation's getting better, the buildings are tighter, we're putting air filtration in, which helps alleviate the dangers of people who live next to highways like I-93 in Somerville. But transportation is by far, and power are the 2 biggest challenges. And with offshore wind and electrified transportation, whether it's plug-in cars or even better, the kind of transportation that we've built here, that is the bulk of our climate challenge. So I'm just throwing that out. Those of us who are in our 70s aren't going to do it. You 2 guys are going to do this, okay? Is that all right? Great. Thank you.
Thank you. That was awesome. I learned a lot. I always think that I know, a lot of the history, but we can always learn more. Next, we will thank and honor the Friends of the Community Path. As the Green Line extension became a shared vision 2 decades ago, a group of Somerville residents dared to envision more than just a train. They envisioned a transportation corridor that served people walking, wheeling, and biking. They envisioned community space where neighbors could bump into neighbors. Friends of the community path lit a fire that inspired regular residents and elected officials alike to think bigger. Lynn Weissman, Alan Moore, Joel Bennett, Rachel Burkhart, Jonah Petrie, and many others put in countless hours to support the Green Line extension and the path extension. Their design and engineering expertise convinced project managers at Mass DOT and the MBTA that this big idea was feasible. When the Green Line extension project was over budget and facing cancellation, they supported the effort to get costs under control. But they never let anyone think that it was okay to build the Green Line extension without the path. I'm so excited to open the path with them next month, I think. But as Lynn said to me, whether it's a month later or 2 months later, it's so much better than waiting 20 years. So, Lynn Weissman cannot join us today, and we are sending her our love and gratitude. Please join me in welcoming to the podium Alan Moore, co-president of the Friends of the Community Path.
Thank you, Mayor Ballantyne, for inviting myself and many others of the community members today. I'm glad to say a few words at this exciting Somerville celebration of the Green Line Extension project. Mayor Ballantyne has been a long-term and staunch advocate of pedestrian and bicycle transportation and of public transit, much as her predecessor, the former Mayor Joe Curtatone. The Friends of the Community Path are delighted to have Mayor Ballantyne now taking the helm at this new juncture. So as I was introduced, I'm co-president of the Friends of the Community Path along with Lynn Weissman. She's unfortunately sick today with COVID, but very much regrets she cannot be here and says to tell her she is here in spirit. And so for all the other past and current members that have supported, of the community that have supported the Friends of the Community Path, thank you all for your hard work. The Friends of the Community Path was a brainchild of Lynn's partner, Joel Bennett. Together, they started the group back in 2001, aiming to extend the much-loved existing community path further eastward to Cambridge and Boston. And this was even before the state finally agreed to build the Green Line extension. There's been many ups and downs over the 20 years that I've been involved to get the community path built. It had to be built along with the Green Line. We had piecemeal progress and setbacks, but with the continuing support of Curtatone administration, city staff, city council, our state delegates, and the hundreds of advocates who wrote letters and spoke at meetings, just like the work that STEP and their supporters did for the Green Line extension, the state finally came around and agreed to build the community path 2.2 miles to Cambridge and the Charles River. In case you don't know, it's about 150 feet right outside this window. As the mayor said, we have a lot to do to keep up with work in the future. To get the Green Line extension designed and built, and to make the community path extension an integral part of it, it showed how the power of community to progress efforts to improve transportation and reduce climate change impacts can be successful. So now the Friends of the Community Path are now focusing on working with other groups to, now that the community path will be opening, to connect it to the Grand Junction path in Cambridge, to the proposed Mystic to Charles path that would bring it to Assembly, and then across the proposed Mystic River Bridge to Everett. But we need help with these efforts. We need more young people to get involved, so anybody who is willing to help with these continued path connections, please come and speak with me tonight or sometime in the future. As the mayor just said, we have heard from the city and the Green Line team that the community path extension should open in about 6 weeks or so. So there'll be more reasons to celebrate in the future. When that's done, this 2.2-mile extension will connect to the Minuteman Path to the west, to the Charles River Path Network, making a total of about 50 miles of interconnected networks for walking and cycling. So the Friends of the Community Path wish to thank the City of Somerville and the whole community, the state and the federal government for your continued support. Thanks.
Thank you, Alan. Next, we will focus on the role of Somerville business community. We are so fortunate to have a progressive, civic-minded business community here in Somerville. The Somerville Chamber of Commerce recognized early on that public transportation is the backbone of a vital local economy. They argued that Somerville workers, merchants, customers stood to benefit from the Green Line extension. They advocated for fiscal self-sufficiency that would allow our city to invest in great schools, modern infrastructure, and excellent parks. I'm so grateful for the skills and tenacity of Stephen Mackey and Tom Bent, who served as president and board member of the chamber, and to Tom, who also continues to serve as our representative on the Boston Region Metropolitan Planning Organization, known as the MPO. The MPO allocated hundreds of millions of dollars to the GLX. Without Tom's delicate diplomacy as a board member, the BAP body could have prioritized other transportation projects and passed on the GLX. Please welcome them, Steve and Tom, to the podium.
Thank you very much, Mayor. My name is Stephen Mackey. I'm president of the Chamber of Commerce. I walked in the door there in 1995, and Tom Bent was the chair and a part of the conscience as well as the leadership of the Chamber of Commerce. And one thing that the Chamber looked to do was to help the community in pursuing an urban quality of life. And it felt like whether Tom lives here and works here, I live here and work here, and others do in the chamber, but a lot didn't. But everybody felt like they're here so much part of their life. They share what everybody else shares in the urban quality of life. And when I say that, I mean things like jobs and housing and mobility, just the whole public parks, the cleanliness of the streets and everything. So basically, we share the life. So let's act like it. And we looked at what Somerville had 100 years ago had transit. 100 years ago it had rail stops, 8 or 9 of them. 100 years ago it had streetcars. And it was like, that's how Somerville in 1910 got to be the most densely populated city in New England. A lot of people don't stop and think that it was transit that produced this relatively small parcels, the 2 and 3 deckers, 2 family and 3 deckers, the parks, little parks nearby. Everybody could walk, and everybody did. The automobile wasn't a household item for years, for decades. And then in the middle of the 20th century, some policymakers and some transportation engineers and urban planners took that away and pushed the trolleys were run by the private sector, and they failed. And the government couldn't take them over. The rails, however, were pushed out service out to the suburbs. And Somerville was put into cars and put on buses. So now you have Cambridge and Somerville between the Charles River and the Mystic River. Cambridge gets the Red Line extension through Cambridge and has the 2 universities very clearly based in Cambridge. After World War II, there's this tremendous post-war business development in Cambridge. Cambridge developed a commercial tax base, bar none, in New England, and can support every wish in the community, like building a new high school, like funding this program and that program. I went to the building over here. Tom grew up in the city. We had others who did, and they wanted to level the playing field. And the way to level the playing field in the urban core was to deliver transit. So we were in support of the Orange Line and brought people here to look at Assembly Row when Good Time Emporium was there and Central Steel, both members of the chamber, and we ended up supporting eminent domain to take them out and go for a higher goal. And speaking to the students here who just did an outstanding job in the beginning, just more than I could imagine, that they're the future. It takes a long time to manage a city because it's very complex. And the things that need to be done can be politically controversial and technically difficult and price tag wise just out of this world. Along the way, you might have to, whatever you tackle, you might have to have a day in court. And you need to look at Doug Foy's role in this if you have to do that. You have to look at the academic community, and you need to look at Fred Salvucci and see what the academic community brings. You need to send somebody to Washington. In 91, we had the day in court. In 98, I think, sent Mike Capuano to Washington. Get $1 billion, Mike. And he got it, okay? And you need to elect a mayor in 2004 that was just hell-bent on bringing us together and bringing this thing here. So it takes that kind of involvement and that kind of, I think, community courage and persistence. There's one date in the whole process that stands out in my mind. One day, one night, over there before they knocked down the auditorium when those 600 or 700 people showed up. And it was, the community came together, all of us. So we were here. You have to go to Union Square. Well, you're going to risk the main line if you go to Union Square. Well, let's play chicken. This belongs here, both of those things, the main line and the Union Square extension. In fact, you probably ought to be going to Porter Square, but we'll let that off. But the thing about that night, it was a public hearing. We got 700 people there, and we faced the decision makers, and we sent a very clear message that we believed. You know, it was the same time as the Red Sox were winning the World Series. And we were there that night and said, we believed. And I think we blew them away. That the community was not going to back off. While other players at the Chamber of Commerce or here or there might change, the community wasn't backing off. So congratulations to everybody here, and bless you and all you'll do with your lives in the future. If there's one message that I'd like to add, and this is a little bit personal, that a lot of this, we speak to the political and the technical and transportation and the finance and the science and all of this. There's one message that this little community of 4 square miles should be sending to everybody that is descended from the Mayflower or was born at the Somerville Hospital like I was, or got in the door here yesterday, is we love you. Write home and say, Somerville loves me. Okay, this is part of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve, for the kind words. I thought since we gave us kind of the history of the universe, I'd give us the history of what the Boston Metropolitan Planning Organization does. Good afternoon. My name is Tom Bent, and I'm speaking today as a board member of the Boston Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO. I represent Mayor Katsiana Ballantyne, the City of Somerville, and the Inner Core Committee. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about the role the MPO had in making the GLX project come to fruition. The MPO is responsible for conducting the federal required metropolitan transportation planning process for the Boston metropolitan area. The MPO uses this process to develop a vision for transportation and to decide how to allocate federal and state transportation funds to projects that improve roadway, transit, bicycle, and pedestrian infrastructure. The Boston MPO region encompasses 97 cities and towns, over 1,300 miles of area. The region is also home to nearly 3 million people and supports about 2 million jobs. The MPO's 22 voting members' main role is selecting transportation programs and projects for funding. Over the past 15 years, the MPO has been working on the GLX project. It first had to be part of the Long Range Transportation Plan, or LRTP. Then, after many years and hundreds of hours of public meetings, discussions, and debates, it was voted on to the Transportation Improvement Plan, or TIP, which is where the MPO was able to finally fund it through federal and state funds. The MPO has funded many other projects in Somerville, such as some of the streetscape improvements for the before the Orange Line station could come to Assembly Row, East Somerville Complete Street Project, the Somerville Ave and Temple Street reconstruction projects, recently safety improvements to the crossing at Mystic Ave, bus and bike lane projects, bike path improvement projects, and the Fast 14 Bridge project on I-93, to name a few. And then during the discussions, when we had the dark days of GLX, when it was looking like it was going to be cut, dealing with the governor and other people, one of the things that they wanted to cut was the bike path. And working with the Friends of the Community Path, we made sure that that didn't happen. It was, at the time, it was $20 million. When you looked at the overall scheme of the project, it really wasn't a lot. And through that advocacy, that did not get cut, and it was great. And Alan, your group had so much to do with all that, so I wanted to thank you for that. So there are some people that I feel like I want to thank. One thing about the MPO, they do a lot of work. They have a huge impact in the region, and hardly anybody knows about them. So and it just happened to be last Thursday we had an MPO meeting, so I got a chance to actually thank all our members then. And I got to tell you, they were very appreciative, and they're very proud of the Green Line project. I think it's one of the largest projects that the MPO has ever done, by the way, too. But I'd like to thank David Moeller. He's the Executive Director of Planning for MassDOT and Chair of the MPO. I want to thank all past and present MPO members, and we've gone through a lot of them in 15 years. All our municipal partners, our CTPS staff, and this is the MPO staff that does the yeoman's work in making a lot of this happen, for their dedication and hard work keeping the GLX project on track. Governor Baker, for keeping faith in the project and finding a way when the cost estimate came in $1 billion over budget, working with all the stakeholders to cut costs without cutting service from the project. Congressman Mike Capuano, and I'll tell you, without the work that Mike did on the federal level, please, without the work that Mike did on the federal level, we'd not be here today. I was very happy to hear that Governor Baker is naming the Green Line Maintenance Facility, which is located in Innabel Park in Somerville, the Michael Capuano Green Line Maintenance Facility. I want to thank Mayor Joe Curtatone, who appointed me, and Joe, you owe me big for this, as his representative on the MPO for over 15 years ago. Mayor Curtatone gave his all to get this project done, working with the governor, MassDOT, our congressional and state delegations, and all the advocates to keep the GLX on track. Mayor Katsiana Ballantyne, and the current, past, and present officials of the Somerville, then Board of Aldermen, now City Council, and all of in our state delegation for all their work and support for this project. The MBTA leadership, staff, and all the contractors working through, especially the contractors, working through COVID, working through incredibly cold weather conditions and the heat of the last few summers to get this project a little bit later than they thought, but under budget. which helped Somerville and Cambridge get $75 million back that they were going to assess on that. The Somerville Chamber of Commerce President, Steve Mackey, in the Chamber's business community. The Somerville Transportation Equity Partnership, Somerville Mystic View Task Force, the Friends of the Community Path, and countless others who sent letters and attended so many meetings over the years. And I want to tell you, those letters and comments that come into the MPO, and we get thousands of them, they are read. And they do it. The staff does a great job by putting them together, getting to all the board members. And I got to tell you, it made a difference to get the Green Line happy. It really did. They've never seen anything like that. When Steve and others talked about that meeting here, you know, the night of the Red Sox, I had an MPO meeting, I think 3 or 4 days later, and the people from the state were like there, and they're like, Tom, they couldn't believe it. They were just dumbfounded by it. Like, that many people came out, and the Red Sox were playing, you know? So, and again, those are the things that make a difference. And Somerville's done a great job doing all that. There were many times the project was going off the rails over the years, and it was amazing to see the power of all the advocacy groups, business groups, and others working together for the public good to make what most believe an impossible task possible, and working together, they were all able to push the train forward. So once again, Somerville leads the way. We got it done, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tom and Stephen. And you know, it takes decades to get these projects on, and there's hundreds and hundreds of people that have been involved in this. So next, we will honor and thank our past mayors of Somerville, Mike Capuano and Joe Curtatone. With Mike and Joe, you can feel the love of our people and our neighborhoods in everything they did. But community spirit only takes you so far. Cities need CEOs who can deliver results. Mike Capuano certainly did that. As mayor, he established the framework for our modern affordable housing programs. He established business district revitalization strategies that supported positive growth and change in Assembly Square, Union Square, and Davis Square. And when he served in the US Congress, he worked tirelessly to push the GLX through the maze of federal permitting and funding programs. Our memorabilia table includes a ceremonial check from the US Department of Transportation for $996 million that never would have arrived without Mike's skillful advocacy. Mike can't make it here today, but we all know we owe him a huge gratitude for all the efforts he put in. In 2003, Joe Curtatone took the baton in an incredible relay race. He has served as a city councilor, went on to become Somerville's longest serving mayor. He partnered with state delegation, our city council, our grassroots organizers, and together they sustained and grew the coalition pushing the Green Line extension. As the Green Line extension project moved through permitting, financing, and design, Joe and his staff worked closely with state and federal agency staff. Joe ensured that the project hit every deadline. He had 3 Massachusetts governors on speed dial to make sure that the Green Line extension kept moving. And when the project was nearly canceled in 2016, he made the hard calls to allocate local funding to help save it. I'm proud to call him a colleague and a friend. Joe is traveling out of state and is kind enough, to join us via video. But please join me in welcoming his son, Cosmo Curtatone, who will introduce the video.
Thank you, Mayor Ballantyne. My dad, Joe, wishes he could be here with all of you. I'm happy to be here with all of you to celebrate the decades of community activism that made the Green Line extension a reality. I was 6 months old when my dad was sworn into office as mayor in 2004. I literally grew up inside of City Hall. I had a front row seat and headset to all the Green Line rallies, meetings, interesting phone calls, and colorful arguments my dad would have with state, federal leaders and agencies. Some of them, I must admit, were colorful and eye-popping, so I can't really repeat the words. But what I would like to share with everyone is something my dad believes and highlights, is that the Green Line extension became a reality because of the decades of relentless advocacy of thousands of Somerville community residents and activists. But although my dad could not be here, he did leave a special message for all of you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It's me, Joe. I'm so excited to be able to share a message with you and how I wish I could be there with all of you to celebrate what really is years and decades of community pride, civic engagement, community activism, which is why the Green Line extension, the community path, became a reality. I want to thank my son, Cosmo, for say how honored I am that he introduced me. I would speak to him often when he was growing up in the community. We'd be sitting at Kelly's Diner in Ball Square, and he would look at the trains and be a big fan of Thomas the Train. I'd say, you know what? Green Line extension's coming there someday. So it's a special moment for me to have him introduce me, but also to Mayor Ballantyne and her administration for making sure that we saw full execution of all the stops being open. And we look forward, and I'll be there with you when we celebrate the opening of the community path. But I want to say this. As I look back of service over the years, as people come up to me from all walks of life and professions and different communities and say, you did a great job bringing the Green Line. Congratulations to you. How did you do it? I said, I did my job. We did it. I had the privilege and honor of climbing that ladder on behalf of the community, for fighting for what's right, to lead with the value of this community, to make Somerville an exceptional place to live, work, play, raise a family, to fight for transit equity, racial and social justice, housing equity, economic justice, environmental justice. And that is the story of the Green Line. When I climbed that ladder and I fought alongside partners in government like Mike Capuano and many, many more, our state delegation, our city council, it was your voice that you amplified, that you used to put the value forward, that gave us everything we need to negotiate, to fight, to make sure this was done the right way. So when I'm climbing that ladder, I never had to look over my shoulder. There were thousands of people from this community over the years who aligned allies and stakeholders around the region to make sure we led with that voice. We heard that voice, and we led with those values. And that's why the Green Line happened. The Green Line extension and everything that's happening would not have occurred without you, without that voice, without those values resonating. Because for years, you fought hard and you said nothing less than what we're asking for. Let's remember, Union Square wasn't part of the Green Line extension originally, nor was the community path. But you bet we're going to fight for Route 16, and I can't wait to stand alongside all of you to do that. I've often said over the years, public administrations, elected officials like this, we have a certain authority embedded upon us and being elected that position, but we don't build community. People do. You have. Be proud. I am so honored and proud for what you've accomplished and we've done together in the city, but what you've taught me. And really leaning into that activism, embracing that people can't see the value of democracy, democratizing the public administration, and the fight for a community's future, well, they're not learning an important lesson. They should look to all that you've done over the years, all that we've done as a community together to understand the importance of that. So thank you. Thank you for teaching me. Thank you for showing me what leadership truly is. Thank you for what you've done for this community. Good for you. Congratulations to Somerville for chasing his hopes and dreams and not relenting. I look forward to what we do next week and what we fight for. But for now, enjoy the evening. Embrace one another, and I'll send you a warm hug. I'm out here in the Midwest. I'll be back soon. But I'm so proud to be part of this community. I love this town, and I'm so grateful to have had the ability and the honor to serve you all in elected capacity, but now as a resident, to continue that fight. Congratulations. Happy holidays.
To bring it all back home, we are honored to close with Doug Foy and Ann Tate, two advocates and public servants who played vital roles in keeping the Green Line extension to advance. Doug Foy worked at the Conservation Law Foundation in the 1990s when the Big Dig settlement was reached and the state was obligated to build the Green Line extension. Years later, he served as Secretary of State of the Environment and Planning. He was joined in the office by Somerville resident and urban planner Ann Tate. Together, out of the public eye, Ann and Doug pushed the Green Line extension through several critical permitting steps that helped make it shovel-ready. And years later, when the Green Line extension faced threats in 2012 and again in 2016, Doug and Ann stayed involved and helped us strategize solutions. Please join me in thanking and honoring and welcoming Doug Foy and Ann Tate to the podium.
Thank you, Mayor Ballantyne. I must say that the staying power of Somerville for this project is reflected by the fact that you guys are all still here after really a wonderful collection of speakers and memories on this project. As the mayor mentioned, I was the president of the Conservation Law Foundation when we filed the lawsuit that embedded the Green Line extension and a variety of other transit commitments in legal obligations for the Commonwealth. It's amazing to me that that was 32 years ago. But then I realized that I actually have a longer history with Somerville than that. I actually moved to the Cambridge-Somerville line in 1971 when I was in law school. That's 50 plus years ago. I don't live in Somerville, but I think I should be sort of an adopted son. I've been there a long time, and you guys have always struck me as the pivotal example of a community that really cares and fights for what is right. And all the speakers that have come before me capture all that. And so I congratulate you. And what a way to celebrate such a wonderful achievement, to have a meeting like this. We had the opening of the other Green Line opening where we had a lot of dignitaries and a lot of sort of fancy dress stuff. I much prefer this way to celebrate the opening. So congratulations to you. I want to note that I learned virtually everything I know about the question of transportation justice and transportation equity from Fred Salvucci and Wig Zamor. Now you've all heard from Wig, and what I find whenever I meet with either Fred, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about Fred, what I find when I meet with either Wig or Fred, I always end up leaving with another assignment that's going to take about 10 years, if not 32 years, to bring to fruition. Wig has done that with me in a variety of ways over many years, including with Assembly Square and the Green Line, of course. What many of you know, I know in this room and many others elsewhere, Fred Salvucci is basically the grandfather of all transportation justice issues in this Commonwealth. I met Fred back when he was Transportation Secretary of Massachusetts. We actually wrestled with each other over, he was pushing through the artery project and the Big Dig project, and Fred is the source of the transit commitments that we embedded in litigation. I will tell you that when I told Fred we were going to sue the Commonwealth to enforce those, he wasn't happy because he didn't want to be sued, but I think he also understands now that once he left, there was no guarantee that it would happen. With Fred there, it would have happened. When Fred left, we needed a judge to be able to make sure it would happen. But those transit commitments and the Green Line extension were born in Fred's arms. So we all owe him a thanks. And so that I learned from those two folks, and I still learn. The transit commitments that have produced the Green Line also produced, among other things, the impetus to have the Orange Line station at Assembly Square. What I'm left with, Ann and I, when we were in government, got to push. I actually had the pleasure of being sued by the Conservation Law Foundation when I was in government to make sure we kept doing it. That was really handy, I must say, because it helped us push it along. But when Ann and I left government, it fell back to our successors to make sure it happened. What I want to leave you with is the notion that a project like this takes a community like you to bring to fruition. 32 years is a long time, but this project will be here for 100 years. And generations from now, people will still be building Somerville around the backbone that the Green Line creates, or that Assembly Square creates. And the generations that your high school students bring forward, their children, their grandchildren, will still be beneficiaries of this project. It is a 100-year legacy. And I thank all of you for making that happen. It would not have happened without this city. So thank you all. Congratulations.
Thank you, Doug. It's always an honor to work with Doug, and I don't know how I ended up as the closer here, but I promise you I'll be brief. Okay. In 1998, at the invitation of Pat Jalen, I gave a talk in Somerville around the opportunities of smart growth for the city of Somerville. There was an incredibly engaged audience, and at the end of that talk, it was clear that there were two key things that were coming up. One was the opportunity of the site at Assembly Square, and the other was the lack of transportation in Somerville. And now, many years later, we have achieved a huge amount in getting those two things done. I was blown away then by the dedication and talent of the local activist community. And 25 years later, the girl I was carrying in my belly that day is coming home on Monday, and she can take the tea to the Bruins game. So to keep the generational theme, I want to especially thank Ellen Reisner, who is in the hospital today, and we send her our prayers and incredible gratefulness. I want to say that this is a project that took the efforts of many, many, many people, but there is one person I would say without whom it might not have happened, and that's Wig. And I want to end you with a quote that my husband Bob often cites from Albie Sachs, who was a South African activist who got blown up by the government, survived that, and went on to become a justice of the newly constituted Supreme Court in South Africa. And he said, "So many of our dreams at first seem impossible, then they seem improbable, and then when we summon the will, they soon become inevitable." And Somerville is a place where those dreams become true and where I'm incredibly pleased to live. It's a great place to grow up, it's a great place to raise kids, and it's a great place, I'm finding now, to get older. But thank you all for an incredible achievement.
Thank you, Ann and Doug, and thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you all for sticking around for this long speaking program. But after 30 plus years of work, I ask that you bear with me just a minute or two more while I read a list of people that I've been reading at every event to be sure they have the gratitude and the recognition. These are people who mainly worked outside the public eye, who moved mountains but often stood in the shadows. You just heard a few of them speak, but here they are together. The members of STEP, Ellen Reisner, Karen Malloy, Wig Zamor, Jim McGinnis, Christy Chase, Andrea Yakovokis, Steve Mulder, Rachel Fichter, Gabe Stiller, Dan Fairchild, Steve Kaiser. Members of the Mystic View Task Force, Bill Shelton, Barbara Steiner, Don Meglio, members of Friends of the Community Path, Lynn Weissman, Joel Bennett, Alan Moore, Rachel Burkhart, and Jonah Petrie, members of the Medford Green Line Neighborhood Alliance, Ken Kraus, Elizabeth Bale, John Roland Elliott, Doug Carr, Laurel Rumer, Conservation Law Foundation advocates, including Doug Foy, Raphael Maris, and Carrie Russell, and local and regional advocates and partners, including but definitely not limited to Todd Kaplan, Polly Polk, Heather Van Alst, Ann Tate, the Somerville Chamber of Commerce, Steve Mackey, Tom Bent, the Somerville Redevelopment Authority, Dan Grabowskis, Fred Salvucci, Jim Aliosi, Rich Davey, David Moeller, Eric Barassa, Kate Fichter, and Christine Kirby, and last but not least, thank you, Brad, the city and other staff, city staff. The City of Somerville's mobility, planning, and economic development teams for the immeasurable amount of work they did over the years to engage, inform, and advocate for our residents. If I've missed someone, and I surely have, please share their story with our oral history project. Now please enjoy the rest of the event, everyone, and I hope to see you on the Green Line. Thank you.